How can low RPM rotor stall be avoided? It constituted 22% of our fatal accidents. One thing you need to understand is that low RPM rotor stall, unlike retreating blade stall, can occur at any airspeed. It can occur in high-speed flight. It can occur in low-speed flight. It can occur in a climb or in auto rotation. It can even occur in a hover. And we have had fatal accidents occur in almost every one of those different flight regimes. What does a pilot do wrong that induces low RPM rotor stall? In some cases, the student or low-time pilot simply rolls the throttle the wrong way and doesn't recognize his mistake quick enough, and the RPM goes too low. Another thing that can contribute to low RPM rotor stall is the relationship between power and RPM. The power that your engine can produce is almost directly related to RPM. If you allow the RPM to droop down 10 or even 20%, then you will reduce the power that that engine can physically produce by that same 10 or 20%. And that can lead to a very unstable situation, whereas the RPM comes down, the power available comes down. As the power available comes down, that in turn will cause the RPM to fall even lower, and so on, and you end up in a very unstable divergent situation. Another thing that can cause low RPM is overpitching the collective, particularly during takeoff or during the acceleration run as you're going into forward flight. You have to be very careful that you don't pull in too much collective pitch, more collective pitch than there is power available. You need to know and practice the low RPM recovery technique, power on. If you get into a low RPM situation, power on. In order to recover from that, you must roll on the throttle and lower the collective simultaneously. If you do them separately, it won't work. If you are already power limited and you just roll in the throttle, you either will not get the RPM back or you'll get it back too slowly. On the other hand, if you just lower the collective, that will unload the rotor, which of course is good, but what else happens when you lower that collective? The correlator is rolling off the throttle. So instead of getting your RPM back, the RPM will probably drop even lower. Low RPM is more critical at high altitude. At high altitude, the rotor demands more power, and the engine can produce considerably less power. So you're in a much more vulnerable situation to end up in a low RPM rotor stall. If you're going to fly at high altitudes, before you either fly or make takeoffs and landings at high altitudes, you need to get good professional training so that you will understand the techniques that you have to follow when operating at high altitudes. What is the RPM at which rotor stall will occur? Well, your red line is at 90%, and certainly in all normal maneuvers you should never allow the RPM to ever go below 90%. However, there will be occasions when it may droop slightly below 90%. But no matter what you have to do to prevent it, never ever allow that RPM to droop below 80% plus 1% per 1,000 feet. For instance, if you're at 5,000 feet, then you would never allow that RPM to droop below 85%, and so on.